Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look, of course, at what's on the front pages. Time then to see what is making the headlines with the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and the consultant editor of the Daily Mail, Andrew Pearce. Both of you with us until just before midnight. So let's see what's on the front pages then, starting with the Eye. The High Court ruling criticising the government for discharging COVID patients to care homes during the pandemic makes the lead for that paper. The headline, 20 warnings missed to stop COVID slaughter in care homes. Meanwhile, porn MP exposed. That's the front of the Metro, which reports that an unnamed Conservative MP allegedly watched pornography on his mobile phone in the Commons chamber. A number of female colleagues have complained. Same story for the Daily Mirror. The headline, Tories porn shame in Commons. And the Daily Express also has that as its main story, as you can see, caught watching porn in the Commons. The Telegraph says that the Chancellor is threatening a windfall tax on energy companies if they fail to invest more in the UK to support the economy at a time of crisis. The Financial Times says that the price of gas in Europe has risen by another 10% after Russia's decision to turn off supplies to Poland and Bulgaria. The Sun carries an announcement from world boxing champion Tyson Fury that he is finally retiring. And The Star says scientists are worried that the planet is under threat because people are using too much toilet roll. Well, a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. So let's bring in our guests then, Kevin Maguire and Andrew Pearce. Welcome to both of you. With the news on a number of newspapers, these allegations about a Member of Parliament, Andrew, watching pornography on his mobile phone. Your reaction?
Well, what a horrible sleazebag. That's the obvious reaction. I mean, it's disgusting. I've always had reservations about how easy it is to access porn, but the idea that a parliamentarian paid whatever £84,000 a year is in the Commons chamber while women MPs are around him gazing at porn. We think he's done it more than once. We think he might have done it in a select committee as well. And at least one woman MP tried to film him looking at the porn. I mean, shameless. He's going to be investigated, whoever it is, by the independent authorities, parliamentary authorities in the House. I think he'll have to be suspended when that inquiry is completed. And frankly, I think the Tory party are going to have to kick him out. We don't want an MP like that in Parliament. Don't want anyone in Parliament behaving like that, whether they're an MP, member of staff. Watching porn, you shouldn't be watching porn in the workplace, particularly in the hallowed Commons chamber. For God's sake, is nothing sacred.
Yes, and only people who have witnessed the situation are able to make a complaint to this body, this independent complaints and grievance system, which is, going to be now investigating it. Chief Whip was going to look into it, clearly not now. Does it mean it's all going to be a slow and protracted process, Kevin? And the timing of this could not be worse.
No, it couldn't, and Aaron, it's utterly jaw-dropping and gobsmacking, and you think you've heard and seen it all. And, like Andrew, I can trace back covering politics to the late 1980s and the era of Thatcher, and then this comes along. You got to believe it. But there are two MPs made a complaint, two women MPs who say they saw it, so that's corroboration. I can't see why Chris Heaton-Harris, the Chief Whip, doesn't launch his own investigation. And if he knows who it is, he's got the name from these two women MPs, Conservative MPs, about their colleague, then immediately suspend the whip from the person, unless they come up with an incredibly good explanation, which I'm not sure what it could be. But as you say, it's a bad time for the Conservative Party, because as my own paper, the Daily Mirror, does it, calling it the new sleaze party. Now, you've got a Wakefield by-election coming up because the Conservative MP, Imran Khan, was convicted of sexually abusing a young man. You've got another Tory MP who's under investigation after a picture has appeared of him with what was said to be cocaine, and a woman made allegations against him, which he strenuously denies. Then you've got 56 MPs across all parties. Labour has its problem too, that have had complaints about sexual harassment and abuse made against them. And 3 were reported by the Sunday Times to be cabinet ministers. Interest of fairness, 2 are also said to be members of the Keir Starmer's Labour front bench team. Then you chuck in parties, and you begin to get that feel of what happened to John Major's government, the back to basics. It all just begins to feel a bit sleazy and sordid and begins to fall apart. You chuck in the crucial cost of living crisis, and it's a very, very toxic mix electorally.
And just very quickly on the process that we're seeing, Andrea Litson was saying today that in order to protect the claimants, the process in the Commons is supposed to be secret. So this leaking of 56 MPs being investigated, or however it came out, that should not be happening, because then it stops people coming forward. I don't know how open you expect this to be, Andrew, you know, whether the names will eventually come out or not, or they should not.
Well, I mean, the whole point is that people are supposed to be given anonymity while they're being investigated, because a lot of these complaints, we hope, won't be upheld. But if they are upheld, then, of course, they'll be named. But it's Parliament. The place leaks like a sieve. There's already lots of people think they know the name of this Conservative MP. Obviously, I'm not going to say who we think it is on the programme tonight, but I would be amazed if the name isn't out in 24 hours. And frankly, as the name was discussed at a meeting where I think there were 14 women Tory MPs with the Chief Whip, of course it's going to get out. And why shouldn't it?
OK.
Yeah, the name is out there. We can't use it unless you have absolute cast iron certainty for legal reasons and fairness that it is him. But I'd like the name to be out there so we can get a public explanation. Otherwise, this MP can be playing a role in the House of Commons and public life while they're accused by 2 of their own colleagues. You've got to remember this. This is not the opposition parties going for the government. This is 2 Conservative women. One said by my own paper, the Daily Mirror, to be a minister. So what is this MP going to be up to in the meantime? We saw that Imran Khan Wakefield was on a Home Office panel looking into child sex abuse while he was under police caution. That should not happen, and it certainly shouldn't happen again.
OK, interesting. We will keep an eye on that, obviously. Let's move on to the other big news of today, or one of the big news, which is what happened in the courts. The government policies on discharging older people, hospital patients into care homes was deemed to be unlawful. And this, you know, opens up all sorts of potential claims, Andrew. We await the inquiry. It'll certainly feed into that as well.
Yeah, the High Court said it wasn't only unlawful, it said the decision to put people out of hospitals without testing them for COVID into care homes was also irrational. Putting it brutally, crudely, it was a bit like putting a fox in a chicken coop. People, by definition, in care homes are often frailer and more vulnerable. My newspaper was campaigning about this right at the off, saying this can't be a good thing to do. It isn't right. We know that there were various warnings about the fact people could have COVID without any symptoms, but up to 20,000 people died in care homes. How many of those now died as a result of this mad, irrational, as the court says, decision to put people out of hospitals into care homes without being tested? There will be a mass of compensation claims, quite right too, but that doesn't bring these people back. And of course, we have to remember what Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, said. He said, if the worst effect of something like we're putting a protective arm around all the care homes. Well, no, he wasn't. And this is a man who's just announced he's writing a book called Pandemic Diaries. I don't know how he's got the nerve.
Yeah, and they also said at the time that they were testing on release from hospital, which was also not the case either. There was no secondary test for those who were in hospital. I mean, I guess they watched other countries, saw the pressure on health services there, and recognised that actually the last thing you need in hospitals full of COVID patients was actually vulnerable people. So where else should they have gone? You know, what else could have been done? Or was it simply that the eye was not on the ball, that the testing system wasn't in place, and the PPE hadn't been ordered either?
But you're right. Hospitals, by very nature, have a lot of vulnerable people. So do care homes. I understand get out the elderly, vulnerable who can into that care sector. But the crux of it is there was no protective ring. They were sending infected people into care homes because they didn't test properly, and we were misled. We were misled by ministers claiming testing was going on when it wasn't. And the eye picks up 20 missed opportunities here. The alarm bells were ringing. Andrew's quite right. The Mail campaigned on it very, very well, I recall at the time. The Daily Mirror did too. So Matt Hancock, as Andrew says, is writing this book. I mean, look, he wants a comeback. He's planning his own comeback. This is why there should be no comeback by Matt Hancock. But the Prime Minister has questions to answer too, and you understand why he wants to delay the inquiry until after the general election, because there are going to be incredibly searching questions asked, and the mistakes are going to be exposed. And the government gets huge credit and deserves it over the vaccination programme. But a lot of people died needlessly because of mistakes.
OK, we're going to talk about Russia and gas after the break, but I do want to touch on front page of the Telegraph, which is Sunak warning of a windfall tax, would you believe, on energy firms, which is clearly what Labour has been pushing for some time.
Yeah, he was prodded on this on Mumsnet. I don't think his heart's in it, but what's interesting is he's sort of gone down the road of the principle if he thinks energy companies aren't supporting the economy. But Dominic Raab, the Justice Secretary, had said the idea would be disastrous, and Boris Johnson said it would be a tax on business. So you can see the government is pulling and looking in different directions all at once.
Andrew, quickly on that.
I don't think that Rishi Sunak's got any intention of bringing a windfall tax. I think it would be a very popular policy, actually. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why I might not support it, but it would be popular. But I don't think he's going to say it. I think he was just trapped by Mumsnet, very clever organisation. He's not going to do it. And there's no support that I'm aware of in the cabinet for it anyway. OK, plenty more still to come, including, as I said, the story on the FT's front page, which says that gas prices are soaring as Russia turns off their taps to Poland and Bulgaria. Discussing that in just a moment. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and the consultant editor of the Daily Mail, Andrew Pearce. Welcome back to both of you. Kevin, let's go to the FT, shall we? Gas prices soaring, not surprising, I guess, after what happened to Poland and Bulgaria in terms of their Russian gas imports.
No, that's right. Their supplies have been cut off because they won't pay in rubles, which Vladimir Putin decreed must be the case. To try and protect his currency, which has just been hammered by sanctions. Interestingly, he's not taken the same line with Germany, which buys a lot more gas from Russia, because presumably he needs the euros that he gets in return, and Germany gets the gas. And it's where there is this dependency across the European Union, which is accusing Putin of trying to blackmail countries, as von der Leyen saying that. Well, of course, there's a war on. And there are economic tactics as well as military. But what it will mean for consumers in the UK, of course, is world prices soared 20%. The rise fell down at 10%, but nevertheless, when world prices go up, that means we will face higher bills here. The cap's already gone for households from $1,400 to $2,000 a year, could go to $2,600 in October. No protection for business users who are getting absolutely whacked.
Andrew, your paper's just in. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Which is that the police have opened the door to a full probe into claims that Sir Keir Starmer broke lockdown rules when he was filmed drinking with party officials. A 43-second video clip has emerged of him in the office of Mary Foy, Labour MP for the city of Durham, on April the 30th last year. And this is Durham Constabulary saying it would consider a request from Tory MP Richard Holden to review a controversial decision which cleared the Labour leader. And this, I guess, is after senior Conservatives suggested there's some hypocrisy in the way that the police are handling the Partygate claims. Tell us more.
Yeah, so Richard Holden is a local MP up in Durham. He wrote to the Chief Constable highlighting various parts of their rules and regulations about COVID, and he said there is an inherent contradiction in how they managed to take no further action against Starmer. Starmer, of course, was up there campaigning during a by-election. It's not his home like Downing Street is Boris Johnson's home. He is filmed having a drink with colleagues. He says it's just that. Now, the Chief Constable is saying he's gone back to the detectives who took the decision that there should be no further action to ask them how they arrived at that decision. So potentially he's opening the door to the whole matter being reinvestigated. Now, that would make the Tories purr with pleasure because Keir Starmer, in my view, has been banging on too much about Partygate. And we know from tension in the shadow cabinet that the shadow levelling up secretary Lisa Nandy has made that point too in a disagreement in shadow cabinet. But Keir Starmer has invested so much of his whole attack on the government on the fact Boris Johnson broke the rules, also whether he lied about the rules. Now, no one's suggesting Keir Starmer's lied, but if the police were to reinvestigate inside he did break the rules, that would be a huge setback for Labour.
OK, we were going to do the Daily Star, not about the loo rolls running out, but the methane masks for cows. Run out of time, sadly, to do that. Kevin Maguire, Andrew Pearce, thank you both very much indeed.